declaration of martial law or national emergencies in the United States. What a lot of people don't realize is that martial law has already been declared in the United States 68 times, yes. And we may have to worry more about national emergencies than martial law. So let me get all into this, guys. Because a lot of people say, martial law, no, that's not going to happen. Even all the stuff going on, we'll never get martial law. Well, don't count on it. But furthermore, since it's been declared 68 different times, and it's not just the president that can declare it. So there's a lot to know about martial law and to know about national emergencies. Because we're coming in some times, guys, we may be restricted, highly restricted in our freedoms, our travels, and how we might be detained and tried and things like that should emergencies arise. And we seem to be in a time where that is all too likely. All right, my friends, with all the threats for economic disruption, civil strife, civil war maybe, and world war, and sleeper cell activities right here in the United States. Much to worry about. Okay, here we go, guys. So here it is. Martial law, as I said, have been declared 68 times. The first case of the declaration of martial law was in 1812. 1812 by General Andrew Jackson in New Orleans. It was a city declaration back there, right prior to the Battle of New Orleans. So it's not just presidents and Congress can declare it. Typically, governors can declare it statewide. The Congress can declare that. So what is martial law versus national emergencies? So to break it down, martial law is essentially the imposition of martial courts. Yeah, military courts, military trials. It's the suspension of the writ of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus says that you have a right to be told what you're charged. Well, basically, you have a right to be told what you're charged for, to make sure that your detention is legal, and to have a right to trial by jury and those kind of good, happy things, which a lot of powers are not too happy with, it seems, but that's another story. So the other element is that national emergencies, though, don't necessarily declare all that. Now, martial law might still allow civil courts to operate to some degree. However, and you could have military actions in a country where you don't really have martial law. Now, there is the Posse Comitatus Act, which greatly limits the activation of military forces of the United States, which is somewhat enabled by the earlier 1807 Insurrection Act, which governs the opposition troops for insurrections and things like that, which was pretty much in force in the 1860s, along with martial law and things like that. National emergencies are a little broader. A lot of the language that dictates what's happened in national emergencies gets through various acts that pass through Congress, one of which was the 2007, I believe, National Defense Authorization Act, known as the Jim Warner National Defense Authorization Act, which gave the president broad sweeping powers under a national emergency. In total, through that and other legislation, I believe there's like 136 additional powers given to a president in a national emergency. And that includes suspension of a lot of your rights. You got to also bear in mind that some of the National Defense Authorization Acts have authorized language, amongst probably other acts passed by Congress, that permits the seizure of private assets, like for growing food, for mobilization, or even food storage. They could essentially come in your house, and if you've got a stockpile of food, they could take it. They could take your motor vehicles. It's a national emergency. We've got to have your vehicle in order to chase the bad guys or do whatever it is we got to do. You see what I'm saying, guys? Your supplies, your things are not safe under a national emergency. Also, you got to think, there was this operation drill known as Rex 84, in which it is alleged is highly secretive drill. It occurred in 1984 during the heights of the Nicaraguan deal with the Noriega's, whatever the rebels were there working against Noriega. But anyway, the Contras, the Contras. Well, this just so happened that there was provisions under this where they were testing the detention of 500,000 so-called Central Americans here in the United States, along with 4,000 Americans. That's what's alleged. But today, if they were considered national security threats. Well, who would be considered as security threats today? Oh yeah, also on the suspension of writ of habeas corpus. That is governed by Article 1, Section 9 of the U.S. Constitution, which says a writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless in the case of insurrection or invasion or insurrection, in the case that public safety is at risk. So public safety has been theoretically at risk, and it gives provision to basically suspend the writ of habeas corpus under that provision of invasion or I guess insurrection. Well, invasion definitely would have been the case in the War of 1812. The United States had the British forces there in the area, which, as we know from the song, The Battle of New Orleans, and if you know from history books, they were quite well routed by Andrew Jackson's forces, which, he was very famous, Old Hickory, for running the British out. So guys, these are all things to take into account. These things could happen again today, and they may not be to your pleasing. So you need to be aware. You need to prepare. If they're going to come take your goods from you, maybe you need to find a place to bury them in the ground, kind of like these ground critters. They squirrel their resources away, or at least they hide themselves. They got their own bunkers, natural bunkers. You might think about that, guys. What kind of bunkers do you need? Are you going bonkers for bunkers? Some people think if you build bunkers, you're definitely bonkers. But in the day and age we're in, I don't think so. I think you need to really consider having bunkers and places to bury caches of supplies. Because when Billy Bob down the street is knocking down your door and going through your pantry for something to eat, and he cleans you completely out, then you're facing starvation. All your years of work and putting by and saving become for naught. So I highly encourage you to bury stuff. That's one reason I encourage people to go to prepwithgreg.com, because the stuff you get there in those big sealed buckets with the sealed pouches inside lend themselves to easy transport and easy burial. So yeah, that is something to consider. Also, seeds are very easy to hide. So consider my links to True Lift Market and Eden Brothers, because you want to be able to grow more. All right, my friends, and never forget to get out and practice your survival skills in the woods. Also, it's a good chance to get in touch with Mother Nature. That and growing gardens too. It's kind of what you call a green bath. Sometimes your mind needs this in times of travail. This will put your mind and soul at better ease to spend some time in nature. Enjoy what the Creator has given us here. Enjoy that while you can. But here's the big things to worry about. Under martial law, no, really under National Emergency Acts, and even sometimes without those powers, you can have things like roads blocked. You can have curfews. Curfews are declared without martial law. Curfews are declared without so-called national emergencies. When the tornadoes hit here in 2011, April the 27th of 2011, we got a curfew in effect for over a week, maybe 2 weeks. This place was torn to pieces by just a whole storm of tornadoes. This place was wrecked around here. There had been debris all in these woods from houses just over the way. It was a pretty sad situation, not having power. So you got to consider these things, but it may be that you won't even be able to travel to your bug out location. So you might consider, you might not even be able to get out of the city. And if you're in the city when the grid goes down and everything goes bad, there's no food. You're in an island of food desert. You're in a big heap of trouble because it's got lots of people and no food. You're going to look like food to a lot of people. So I would highly encourage people not to be especially in a city or even a high population area. And you might want to consider living where you can bug in, or move into your bug out location if you can, or spending more time there, or to make sure you got ways to get there, you got waypoints or caches. How can you avoid Roadblocks. Well, roadblocks will definitely be on the interstates. Will all the back roads be roadblocked? That's a good question. It's hard to say how extensive the roadblocks would be in a case of national emergency. So it could be complete. There could be travel bans. You might not be able to get gas, and maybe it's not because of a national emergency. Maybe it's because of a fuel shortage due to the closures of the Strait of Hormuz or something like that in a war with Iran. You may not be able to get fuel. So you may not be able to travel. Even without a national emergency being declared, you may have a real national emergency. You just can't even travel. These are all things to take into account. There's all more reasons to start getting toward your bug out location as things get testy. This is why you need to keep your eyes wide open, head on a swivel, because there may be very little notice. When the black swan flies, you're not expecting it. So it's a black swan, it's unexpected. How many people thought the day before 9/11 what was going to happen that day? How many people in Israel, at least citizen-wise, was expecting what was going to happen on the 7th of October, the day before, in those communities around that area? If they had been expecting it, they wouldn't have been having music festivals and the like. So that's why you got to keep your eyes wide open and be ready to move in an instant if you have to. But if you can kind of get the idea what things are about to go bad before they go bad, it gives you an edge. And it really looks like we're at that place today. With all the war tensions, it's all the aircraft I'm hearing. A lot of aircraft activity, guys. Is that a heads up or what? Think about it. We're in a world heading to war. Internationally, worldwide, maybe domestically. Let's hope not. My best advice is prep and pray. You guys getting closer. Anyway. Interesting. Case in point, guys. Case in point. Eyes wide open, head on a swivel. Anyway, thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, bang the up notification bell, and click all, and check my links below for other deals that I got that can help you survive. And watch the video right here. Thank you for watching. Greg out.